to be able to be here with you on this stage.
Thank you. Honor is definitely mine.
Let's kind of rewind the clock. You're in Australia.
Yes.
You're playing at the Australian Institute of Sports, which at that time was starting to build up a reputation for bringing college players over, and great players.
Yes.
Right? Andrew Bogut was the first pick in the draft. He had been a few years before you, the Australian Institute of Sports. I'll give a shout out to Chris Sparks, because without him, I don't think you're here.
No.
Chris Sparks, former Valpo assistant coach, who had coached in New Zealand, former Valpo player, being coached in New Zealand, got hired by Homer Drew, and he still had contacts at the Australian Institute of Sports. And he went over there, I think it was in 2008, which was about, I think right before your final year there. His contact there, I think his name was Paul Goris. Is that correct? Who was a coach then?
He was my assistant coach there.
So Paul Goris, Chris went over there, and I think the player he was targeting was Matthew Dellavedova, who ended up going to St. Mary's.
Yes.
And I think Paul Goris said, I don't want you to leave empty-handed. I've got another player for you. They didn't know anything about you, from what you know. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of the story, yeah.
And he gave Chris a kind of video, CD, DVD of yourself, and sent him back to Valpo. And they started looking and looking and looking. He actually said, Homer, I think you want to take a look at this guy. And he said, Paul Goris told me 4 things. He's an elite shooter. He's a great kid. He's got high basketball IQ. And he's got a really tough mind.
Oh, true.
And that is still true today. And then what happens? They call you. You started your season. And we're playing well. And at that time, you had no offers. Is that correct?
Had no offers. But apparently it was Dellavedova, who went to St. Mary's, had a long NBA career, obviously turned out to be a fantastic player. And I think they were looking at another player called Courtney Ellis. So he ended up going to St. Louis, played professionally for a while. But it was, I guess my sort of story of pro basketball was very much a late developer, late bloomer. Even at that time, I was 18 and I was 6'2" and 180 pounds, soaking wet, still hadn't grown or developed or really matured by that stage. But Chris Sparks got in contact with me. There were a few other schools that jumped some interest, and through the process, Valpo stayed strong and built a relationship with Chris. So it was about a week before we were supposed to come over for our visits. I think I had 3 schools lined up. 2 called out, said, there's no scholarship available. We don't think anymore. Mum and I sort of like, do we still go? Do we wait for the next window? Is this the right time? We said, okay, let's go to them. Valpo's been, really consistent. And we came here, we fell in love with it. We learned the program, what Laboratory was, and for me, just an opportunity to have time to grow and develop and mature in my process. And as we were here, after we'd already kind of verbally committed, a couple other schools called back saying, no, we do have you to come for a visit, and sort of made the point very clear that Valpo was the right place.
You came, if I'm remembering correctly, we came like right before the start of the college basketball season.
Yes.
You had time to come from Australia. Mm-hmm. Your mom came with.
Yes.
As tough as possible.
Yeah.
And if I recall, they took you to the dunes. Do you remember that? Does that sound right?
It sounds right.
But I think the deal was not close to news.
No, it wasn't close. I didn't take me to Kelsey. So they took me to all the great places. The Valpo downtown was not what it is right now. And took me through the campus as well. But it was mainly just sitting with Homer and Bryce and being able to learn from obviously an ex-NBA player and a coach whose resume speaks for himself and Homer Drew, and just sort of see the path and what the program has been through and what it was growing to be, and just the excitement that they saw to be able to bring me in was enough.
You grew that year in Australia.
Yes, thankfully.
And you had a huge year at the Australian Institute of Sports, and by then everybody's like, how did, then the word got out that you were a steal.
It things just happened at the right time. As I said, just sort of late developing, and in Australia we have what's called nationals, so each state puts together their best players and play in one competition, and I sort of didn't make those teams for the longest time, and then started to run at the end and have really good tournaments, and it all happened very quickly from not being really recognised up until 17 to moving out of state at 17, living elsewhere, and then coming over to the States by almost 19. It all happened very, very quick.
We're going to run through the Valpo years.
Okay.
These were incredible years for Valpo basketball. You came in with a class with Matt Kenny. Eric Bucks had redshirted the first year, so he was kind of with you those last 3 years.
Yep.
And I think Homer and then Bryce did a great job of filling out the roster.
Yes.
With a lot of high-nature transfers. Will Bogan from Ole Miss, Ben Boggs from Virginia Tech, Bobby Capobianco from Indiana, Levante Doherty, who's on staff now from South Florida, was here today. And that group, I think, meshed unlike any other group I ever saw. I'm talking about not only on the court, but off the court. People ask me who was the best group to be around. Those were the years.
We had a lot of fun, that's for sure. We had great senior players and upperclassmen. Our little this year, Nick Shelton, were great at kind of getting the guys together. Corey Johnson, we had Brandon Wood, just guys that came in, and for us newcomers, just to sort of learn from them, and they led by example in how they were on the court and then off the court too. Just making sure that we felt comfortable, we felt connected, and I think there were 6 or 7 freshmen that came in together. McKenny, Tommy Hurt, Herboy Vucic. He was my roommate, big 7-foot Croatian. He transferred out after a couple of years. So we had so much fun together. Chris Alverson was another one that was part of the program. It was just like I found just a family over here, and to be moving across from Australia at a pretty young age, that was sort of the daunting thing, because how would I settle in and make friends with? And
You did not have a problem.
No, I found a family.
The Horizon League back then was not like the Horizon League today. The Horizon League back then was phenomenal. Butler went to back-to-back national championship games. They were Horizon League then. There were NBA players on about half the teams. Norris Cole at Cleveland State. Butler had 2 first-round draft picks. Gordon Hayward was a lottery pick. Ray McCallum was a first-round draft pick. I think Kiefer Sykes just played the NBA a few years ago from Green Bay. Alfonso McKinney from Green Bay, long time in the NBA. It was a great league to be a part of, and Butler was still the king.
Yes.
And I think the game that started to get you over the top sophomore year, I talked to Homer about this the other day. He said, the one thing about Ryan, he came in and he was good as a freshman, but he took that huge leap between freshman year and sophomore year because of the work he put in. And that was a constant. I talked to a lot of guys who all were on staff, and it was a kind of a constant. It was the work you put in to make yourself the player that you became. And where did that come from, Mom?
That comes from Mum, so I'm getting the eyes, but definitely from Mum. So Mum raised us 4 kids and sort of instilled that in us, that sort of hard work's going to be the thing that gets you where you want to go. When you're growing up, college basketball was not even a dream, wasn't even a thought, and things just happened. But definitely she instilled some values that around hard work and dedication that stuck with me and have really helped me get to where I got to.
I promised we would talk about beating Butler earlier. Sophomore year,
Yes.
they had just played in the national championship. They come to Valpo. There's 5,000 people at the game. Howard Little is here, thank goodness. He remembers that game extremely well. The game went to overtime. It was about the loudest I had ever heard the Athletics Recreation Center. And it was finally a Homer Drew beat Brad Stevens. And I think that kind of catapulted the team for the next couple of years. I think Howard hit about a 40-footer to beat the shot clock in overtime. One of the more memorable shots in Valpo history.
Yep.
I think. How vividly do you remember that game?
For some reason, the highlights came on not too long ago on one of the social media platforms, like in memory, and watching how it's shot just as we drew it up for Rear Half Court. But some of those memories, you don't necessarily remember the whole game. You remember bits and pieces, but just the performance and the atmosphere, and I guess finally getting over that big step that a team like Butler, for what was still a young team at the time, and aspirations to do better things and grow in a really tough conference.
By the way, we beat Butler, and then a month later, Butler playing in the national championship game. So it's kind of crazy.
Could be us.
And then the season ends, and what happens? Homer Drew says, "All right, I beat Butler. That's it."
Look, Homer had one of the great coaching careers, and it just seemed like the right time for him to step aside. And during that time, Bryce did a lot of on-court staff coaching and practices, and you could see that there was a transition going to happen at some point, but the timing must have seemed right for Homer.
And then everything really took off junior year. You got off to a great start. You actually played Butler in December at Hinkle in a conference game. It was kind of weird. And they had been to national championships in back-to-back seasons, and now you're on the road at Hinkle. And that was when everybody realized, okay, this Valpo team is here to stay. You beat them in overtime.
Yeah, we lost a few of our upperclassmen who graduated out, and sort of us young freshmen were now the go-to guys, and we through that, I guess, friendship and closeness just grew, and we went through the challenges of the first 2 years, some up and down seasons. So we felt like we were ready to take the next step, and early challenges like Butler away were great for us in our confidence to, okay, this may not be just we're almost there, so maybe our year to make the big step and finally do what we came here to do, win the Verizon League for the first time.
And as good as Butler was, I think maybe Detroit was a more talented team. They were at that time. They had Ray McCallum, who was a first-round draft pick, and they had like 3 other guys who were borderline NBA-type players. And I think one of the more memorable games, it's your junior year, and you know, boy, we've already won at Butler. If we can win at Detroit, we're going to be in great shape to compete for a conference championship. And I rewatched the final 4.6 seconds of that game. Tie game, final seconds in Detroit, that old rusty gym, and Eric Fuchs takes a charge. 4.6 seconds left, and you're inbounding the ball under the basket. Do you remember, was there a play call? Take us over those last 4 seconds.
To be honest, I don't remember the play call. I remember the games with Detroit. They were just back and forth battles, and for some reason, whichever team would get up by 20 points towards halftime, and the other team would come storming back in the second half, and there was just some amazing rivalry built up, and I think it was just get bugging the ball and let it get down as quick as we can and try and get the best shot we could.
So you had to go 94 feet, and this was the inbound to Eric Bugs, and he just went. And he covered the ground.
He was very, very quick and really hard to stay in front of.
So he went 94 feet, he laid it in with the buzzer, and he won. He ended up winning that big game at Cleveland State. He made 4 threes in the first half. He won the league championship. You got to host the conference tournament. You beat Butler in the first game again. You beat Butler 3 times that year. And unfortunately didn't win the conference championship game. Detroit got you. But you got revenge the following year. Senior year. One more time you had to win at Detroit to probably win the conference championship. You were down 22 points in the second half. Bobby Capobianco gets kicked out of the game. And that spurred this comeback. It was really weird. Like, you rallied behind that.
We did. We loved Bobby, and he always brought his toughness, his physicality. He's a gentle giant off the court, one of those lovable people. But yeah, we just sort of needed a spark, and it was something that just sort of rallied us around. And those were the games from Detroit. Just sort of one team would have control. For some reason, some would switch, and the other team would come back. And it was for us, it was always sort of a revenge. They beat us in the conference tournament in the final, and you know, it was sort of a war wound that stuck with us and really motivated us over the summer and into the season, that we were so close to achieving the dream to go into the tournament. And you know, we had a lot of now seniors. We had Eric Budge as a 5th year. We had, transfers in that were now seniors. We were probably the oldest team in college basketball in time. We felt like it, but it was sort of our last chance, our last run at making the tournament, last chance at, I guess, living out our dreams of making it. And for a lot of us, myself included during the process, didn't know what would come after college, whether professional basketball was a plan or a part, a last chance to do it together as a family.
You had to hit a 25-foot fadeaway shot in the tournament.
Didn't make it easy for us.
At Valpo.
Yeah.
To beat Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
What's your memory of that play?
It's one thing that pops up, and it's one thing that I'm happy to look back and find. But it was just, we sort of knew the situation, and it was pretty disheartening at the time because we were favourites, and we're going to let another opportunity slip through our hands. And when you foul the other team just to kind of make extra possessions at the end of the game, usually doesn't go in your favour at the end. But they missed a free throw. It was kind of, I guess, being a senior and one of the leaders, so it's just kind of put the ball in my hands and had a knack for hitting tough shots or shots towards the end of the game. And I was originally just trying to get to the hoop. I think we're down 2, so I was like, we'll send it to overtime. We'll play 5 more minutes. I think we've kind of got the momentum. I say that I read the defense and I crossed over and I didn't lose the ball and then have to chase after it. The replay says otherwise, but sort of fumbled a little bit, regained, realised there's not much time really on the clock. A couple of defenders jumped at me, and to be honest, when I shot it felt like I threw an absolute brick up at the hoop, and just this flat line drive that had no chance. I was hoping to bank and maybe go in. It felt very uncomfortable, a double clutch, and I remember once it left the hand, I was like, it's a straight. It's going straight at least. I was on the floor at the time, and when it went through, it was just, I didn't know what to do. I jumped up. I saw Coach Drew rolling around on the floor. He didn't know what to do either. And then the rest of the team kind of caught up to me, and yeah, it was just one of those moments that I'll live with. And you have as a kid, like you practice in the backyard of the driveway, the last second shot, and I didn't know how to celebrate that.
You had to then come back, by the way, the very next day.
Yep.
And win the conference championship, which you did. You've done a lot since. I think the one thing, probably 2 things we'll touch on before we let you go. Those 2 years with the Dallas Mavericks, in which you put up good numbers, 40% from 3, and played with some all-time greats. What was that like?
It's really special for me. I grew up as a Dallas Maverick fan, and Dirk Nowitzki was my favourite player growing up. And it was sort of him and Dwayne Wade were 2 players I love watching in the NBA. But to get to play Dirk's last season was really special, and especially a farewell tour for the whole season after we sort of weren't too good to start with, and got to see sort of the rise of Luka Doncic, and just see what the real grind is in the NBA to gauge on the road a lot. You're traveling all the time. We just had out. We were basically pregnant when we went over to Dallas, so we had a son after the first season, and it was truly a dream come true to get an opportunity. And you always wish you got a few more and some more minutes here and there, but to be able to look back and say, I played in the NBA, and I was able to start and play for my national team, which probably means more to me than the NBA, to go to Olympics and represent my country at really the highest level is pretty special.
The 16 Olympics in Rio, in which it basically was all NBA players out of the Australian team, and yet you got plenty of playing time. And I think when the Olympics ended, Matthew Dellavedova, he comes back around. He was the one who quoted, "Why isn't anybody signed Ryan Broekhoff yet?" So you can kind of credit him for coming to Valpo, and maybe give him a little bit of credit for ending up with the Mavericks.
Yeah, no, Della was always one of my biggest supporters. We grew up together, played against each other, and played on teams together. But him and Andrew Bogut, who spent some time with Dallas, apparently got in Cuba's ear and said, "Hey, if you're looking for a guy, you better look over to this kid playing over in Europe." And kind of like Carl was saying, I was very fortunate enough to spend 5 years playing over in Europe and travel the world and see amazing places and get to play play a sport and play a game and get so much out of it after put so much in.
Ryan Broekhoff.
You just did it. On my password.